post the colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order. The Pledge of Allegiance was just given by Master Sergeant Plummer Walker, Korean veteran, Sulphur Veteran Center. At this time, we would have the invocation by Reverend Al Turner. He's a Korean veteran, and he's the minister out at the Shepherd of Hills Presbyterian Church. Thanks, sir.
I need to clarify that I'm a veteran from the peacekeeping period of 63 and 64. I ask you at this time to join me in prayer. Our Father, we've gathered today to honor the memory of one of our own, a hero of our time. We thank you for his service in war and in peace, for his continuing example of courage and service, for what his time in Korea meant to the Korean people and contributed to their building of a vibrant nation. We thank you for those who shaped his life in this community, contributing to the man he became. We thank you for those he represents as a sterling example of the millions who served beside him, who served in times before and since, the many who have given of themselves, even their lives, to preserve our freedom. We thank you for those who have supported such people, farmers, taxpayers, bootmakers, parachute packers, your people standing before you in prayer. We thank you for those who have worked to commemorate his life, preserving a memory to bless and guide the present and the future. We thank you for all these things because we affirm that every good gift comes from you, that the real strength of a people and each person is found in relationship with you. And above all, Father, we thank you for the promise of a perfect world where no sword is drawn but the sword of righteousness, and for your Spirit and your word which guide us as we seek peace and justice in our communities and our lives. We thank you for all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Okay, guests, please go ahead and on the stage, please. Go ahead and please be seated, and the color guard, you can go and rest. If we have any other Korean veterans, come on down. We have a place reserved for you here. I understand some of them are still coming. It's a great day here in South Oklahoma and Murray County right smack dab in the middle of the great Chickasaw Nation. Well, On behalf of the Arbuckle Historical Society at Murray County, I want to welcome you all. We appreciate you coming, and especially our guests here, because they're going to be making all the speeches for us. I don't have to do anything anymore. Not really. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure for me to be able to be just a small part of this ceremony. And it's really not a ceremony, it's a celebration as such. And a man that we are celebrating his lifetime from a period of 1920 March 1 up until 18 November of 1996. Raymond Harvey, quite a man, quite a gentleman, and we can all read about it in the papers. I have a copy here of today's Oklahoman, and I brought it for one reason, and that is to read you, "I'm just so glad we will now be able to recognize this man. If it wasn't going to get done now, would it ever gotten done?" That's the man that spearheaded all of this research to find this gentleman. I couldn't find anyone that knew him. I've asked veterans and everyone else that I came in contact with. But Mr. Roland Earsom and his wife, I must add, because she really keeps him straight, and his research committee, they got with it. And there's some more people that's involved in it because of the new thing with the internet and all this good thing. And I know where it really came from. Roland, it wasn't all you. But I would like for the research committee, Mr. Earsom and Mrs. Earsom, to stand, and let's give them a round of applause. We thank you, sir, very much. And I can tell you your words were never truer, because I could not find anyone, and I don't think it would be done for yours. And that would be an injustice, not only for the great Chickasaw nation, not for the state of Oklahoma, not for the school system. And while we're talking about the school system, Raymond Harvey was a sulphurite. He came here, he was born up in Ford City, Pennsylvania, or someplace up there, but he came back here because his mom was Chickasaw, down here from Rock Prairie, somewhere around Nebo. And he attended school here from first grade to the 11th grade. And then his father got ill, and they had to move to Oklahoma City for medical reasons for his father. And he did graduate up there. But you know, when I got to the sulphur part, that really got my attention, because this is my sort of second home too. Hickory's really number one, but number two is sulphur. But anyway, I got to reading his citations and awards that he had received. You can't hardly find an award that doesn't have valor or gallantry with it, or heroic action. There's a lot of difference between medals and ribbons and all that good stuff. He's got the medals. He's packing it. So then I got to thinking, this guy is really, he's all man, he's all soldier, he's all leader. What a soldier he was. And then I got to thinking, what a bulldog. I hope, Mrs. Crawford, that we got some more bulldogs down there that turn out to be the kind of gentleman he is. I hope that they have the spirit that somewhere to instill in them the pride for the generations to come. I hope we got those, and I'm sure you do, from what I hear. There's a couple of things I'd ask you to think about as you read your programs, or as we go through the progress through the program here. And that is, number one, he volunteered, went down and joined the Army within, I think it's about 2 months, August 1939, right after he got out of high school. He then finds himself in training as an infantryman, probably at Fort Benning, I don't recall. And then he finds himself on the first wave going through after Normandy Beach invasion. Pretty tough going about that time. Without going into everything, he ended up with the Distinguished Service Cross, which is the second highest medal that you can get in our country. He ended up with 2 Silver Stars, valor, 2 Bronze Stars, valor, 2 Purple Hearts, they're valor, and a French de Gras with a palm. In fact, he has 2 of them, as I understand it. And all kinds of medals and things, CIB, the Combat Infantry Badge, and those type things. He comes back. That's his enlisted man. That's in World War II. That's in one con. He comes back, and he becomes an officer, and he finds himself in training, and then over in Korea. And in Korea, he became company commander of Charlie Company, 17th Regiment of the 7th Infantry. And they were pinned down pretty heavy because they'd just been given the order to take Hill 1232. I'll say 1232 because there's a movie made about it. Sort of resembles it. It better, because he was technical advisor later on after he got out of there. I won't go into the citation or all the brave deeds that he did because Roy Roundtree is going to do that. But he had to take that hill. And the reason he had to take it was not just because of Charlie Company or the regiment. It was because they needed that hill for reconnaissance, they needed it for observation and Seattle communication. I'd like for Roy at this time to read what the Medal of Honor really is. As a matter of fact, I pulled out my officer's guide. Thanks, Roy. I see you brought it back to me. I'd never read that before. It's pretty interesting. He's going to read that to you and then read you the citation that was hung around his neck in 1951. Mr. Roundtree is a veteran himself, and his father was killed in action in Korea. And he's got an uncle, I believe that's right, Roy, I may be wrong there, and that's that guy down there that flew those airplanes in Vietnam. Got a street named after him, and also got an airplane of his down at Tishomingo. Mr. Roy Roundtree is also commander of the post here, and we appreciate the use of your facility, your support, and pause. Roy.
The Medal of Honor, established by an act of Congress in 1862, is the highest and most rarely awarded decoration conferred by the United States. The deed for which the Medal of Honor is awarded must have been one of personal bravery or sacrifice so conspicuous as to clearly distinguish the individual for gallantry and intrepidity above his comrades, and must have involved risk of life. Incontestable proof of the performance of the service will be exacted, and each recommendation for the award of this decoration will be considered on the standard of extraordinary merit. The President of the Medal of Honor is made only by the President of the United States. On July 5th, 1951, President Harry S. Truman brought forth the following citation. Captain Harvey, Company C, distinguished himself by conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty and action. When his company was pinned down by a barrage of automatic weapons fire from numerous well-entrenched emplacements, imperiling accomplishment of its mission, Captain Harvey braved the hail of fire and exploding grenades to advance to the first enemy machine gun nest, killing its crew with grenades. Rushing to the edge of the next emplacement, he killed its crew with carbine fire. He then moved to the first platoon forward until it was again halted by a curtain of automatic fire from well-fortified hostile positions. Disregarding the hail of fire, he personally charged and neutralized a third emplacement. Miraculously escaping death from intense crossfire, Captain Harvey continued to lead the assault. Spotting an enemy pillbox well camouflaged by logs, he moved close enough to sweep the emplacement with carbon fire and throw grenades through the openings, annihilating 5 occupants. Though wounded, he turned to order the company forward, and suffering agonizing pain, he continued to direct the reduction of the remaining hostile positions, refusing evacuation until assured that the mission would be accomplished. Captain Harvey's valorous and intrepid actions served as an inspiration to his company, reflecting the utmost glory upon himself and upholding the heroic traditions of the military service.
Thank you, Roy. You know, the guy that hung that around his neck, President Harry S. Truman, he was also a soldier. He was a battery commander, firing battery commander of Alpha Battery in the First World War. He trained his battery right out there at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And it was reported that after the ceremony was over with, that he made the statement that I'd rather have the Medal of Honor than I had to be President of the United States. That's probably right. He's the only president I've ever had a privilege of meeting, and I wouldn't doubt he said that at all. At this time, let's talk a little more about Raymond Harvey. After he got out of the military, he worked for Northrop for a while, but before he got out of the military, they used him as a technical advisor for about 3 movies. I've forgotten the name of them, Verboten, and Fixed Bayonets, and I forgot what the other one was. Who was it? Name? Yeah, okay. Anyway, they used him as a technical advisor, and he was going to be an advisor for the Big Red One, but he got busy with a guy named President Ronald Reagan, as we know him, and Reagan talked about he had several opportunities to introduce him, and it was a real privilege, so they became friends. And by the way, back to the ceremony, General Omar Bradley had just got his 5th star on, and he made sure that he was at that ceremony when they hung the medal around his neck. The other thing I'd like to mention to you is that he passed away. He had gone to the Arizona agency, the Indian agency there, and he had had a stroke, and he came back and retired, and he did pass away in 1996. But he had quite a career there. He also had we have 2 special guests here. I'll introduce those a little bit later. It happened to be his 2 daughters. But first of all, I'd like to apologize for the Honorable Jerry Askins, the Oklahoma Lieutenant Governor. Her mother passed away, and she was looking forward to coming down. But anyway, keep her in your prayers if you would, please. Next, we have the Honorable Scott Colbert. He's a member of the Chickasaw Tribal Legislature and is also a judge. Scott, thanks for coming. You're a nickel.
Thank you, Colonel Little. The Medal of Honor is the highest honor of valor to be given to a military hero. I'm honored to be here on behalf of the Chickasaw Nation, the Tishomingo District of the Chickasaw Nation, as well as the city of Sulphur. I'm not here to represent the city of Sulphur. I've lived here all my life, and I believe I can speak for the city of Sulphur. I'm here for my family and my friends to give honor and thanks to the family of Mr. Raymond Harvey, to give honor and thanks to all those veterans who have gone before us, those who are disabled, all the veterans here, all of the veterans unable to attend today, those serving our country today, those who will fall today, and those who will become disabled today, particularly those who are here I'm honored to be a guest here, and among those who are here, Colonel Ron Little, the Chickasaw Honor Guard, the veterans, Korean Veterans Color Guard, members of this American Legion post. Many of the members here are my friends now. Many of the members of the past have always been my friends. And the Arbuckle Historical Society of Murray County. I thank you for inviting me, and I wish you all the best today. Raymond Harvey, like the rain today, is a gift, and my hat's off to Raymond Harvey and his family. Thank you for inviting me today.
Next, we have Superintendent Paula Crawford from the famous Sulphur Public Schools. Ma'am.
Thank you, Colonel Little. To paraphrase President Harry Truman, it's a privilege to participate in this ceremony honoring Captain Harvey. It's really special to me in 3 other ways. I'm here to represent the school and its 1,300 plus Bulldogs, just like Captain Harvey. It's special to me because I am the daughter of a decorated World War II veteran. And it's also special to me because, although I'm not a tribal member, I am of Chickasaw heritage. I have a daughter-in-law who is a tribal member, and 2 of my grandchildren are tribal members. So that makes it very special. I wonder if Captain Harvey ever thought, as he sat in the classroom here in Sulphur as a Bulldog for 11 years, if he ever considered that one day he would be touring the United States as a national hero, representing all Americans, recruiting for the war effort. I really doubt that he did. He was probably like other children, just, one day as a small child wanting to be a cowboy or a fireman or something like that. None of us knows what the future holds for us, especially during these trying current times, with our economic problems and with all the world unrest. I think the message that we all need to learn from Captain Harvey is to prepare ourselves as best we can, to set our goals, and just like this Chickasaw warrior, to fight fiercely to achieve our goals. That's the thought that we need to try to instill in the youth as we work with them at the school and as we develop them in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Mrs. Nancy Gallup, and she is the administrator for the Oklahoma Veterans Center. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Colonel Little. The President, in the name of Congress, has awarded 3,465 Medals of Honor to our nation's bravest soldiers, sailors, Marines, and Coast Guardmen since the decoration was created. Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Harvey, a Native American of Chickasaw descent, is one of those recipients. While I never had the privilege of meeting or knowing Lieutenant Colonel Harvey, I have known and had the honor of working for and with hundreds of veterans here at the Sulphur Veterans Center. I have listened to stories told by these heroes who I hold in the highest esteem and respect. And in their name and their memory, I wish to express their pride in the recognition of one of their comrades who demonstrated personal bravery so conspicuous as to clearly distinguish himself above his peers. The plaque that's being presented today shall serve not only to remember Lieutenant Colonel Harvey and the deeds he performed, but will instill pride, dedication, and a sense of duty to those generations, both present and future, and will serve as a reminder to what is required to ensure freedom for all. I wish to leave you with this thought. There have been 3,465 Medals of Honor earned, and that number continues to grow today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to apologize for the Honorable Johnny Crutchfield. He couldn't be here today because of a vote or something. Ebony called, and he had planned on coming. Next, the Honorable Wes Hilliard. He's our representative at the state. Hello, Wes.
It is an honor to be here today to celebrate the life of Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Harvey. On behalf of Lieutenant Governor Askins, I talked to her last week, and she was very excited about coming down and joining you today. And she really sends her regards that she couldn't be here. Please keep her in your prayers, and her family in your prayers. It's an honor to be here with you today, and I want to just say thank you to the Arbuckle Historical Society for all the work that they have done for this celebration that we're undertaking today, and for researching the program. Mr. Earsom, I appreciate all the work that you've put into it as well. I have a citation here on behalf of the state of Oklahoma I'd like to read to you at this point. It says, citation, Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Harvey. Whereas Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Harvey is one of Oklahoma's true heroes, receiving the nation's highest award, the Congressional Medal of Honor, by President Harry Truman for his valor in the battlefield on Hill 1232 during the Korean War. And whereas Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Harvey is the only Chickasaw Indian to ever receive this award, he also served his country in World War II and was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts, the Silver Star during his military career. Whereas a plaque will hang in the Arbuckle Historical Society in honor of Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Harvey for his gallantry in the battlefield. And whereas the Oklahoma State Legislature takes great pride in presenting Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Harvey this citation for his service to his fellow men and his country. Now therefore, pursuant to the motion of Representative Wes Hilliard and Senator Johnny Crutchfield, the Oklahoma House of Representatives and the Oklahoma State Senate extends to Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Harvey sincere appreciation and directs this citation to be presented. We appreciate his service, and I think it's important that this ceremony has reminded me of those others that are out there today fighting for the freedoms that we enjoy. You know, I get to exercise that freedom that our soldiers have fought for there at the Capitol every day when I push that button and vote for my constituency. And it's because of people like Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Harvey that we get to live in a great democracy, and all of our servicemen. And so I appreciate what you've done, and I appreciate those that are serving today. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, we have Superintendent Bruce Noble of the great Chickasaw National Recreation Area. Come on, sir. I'll put it up here where you can see.
Thank you, Colonel Little, and thank you to all of you for coming out on a rainy afternoon to be a part of this event. I think after the drought we've had for the last several months, nobody's going to complain about the rain. I'm sure not, and I'm sure you aren't either. It is a privilege to be here this afternoon. I think you will be pleased to hear that I prepared long and hard for this speech, and I'm going to talk now for at least 30 or 40 seconds, so prepare yourself. But it is a real honor to be here. I think, as most of you know, in 1976, the original Platte National Park was converted to Chickasaw National Recreation Area. Part of the reason for that conversion was to include the Lake of the Arbuckles in the boundaries of the expanded Chickasaw National Recreation Area. But another part of the reason for that name change was to acknowledge the importance of the Chickasaw Nation to this part of Oklahoma and really to the nation as a whole. So I am really proud and pleased to be here representing Chickasaw National Recreation Area. We're proud of our connection with the Chickasaw Nation and are pleased to be a part of this event. I think this event really does a good service in acknowledging the importance of the Chickasaw Nation to this community, and thank you to the family members for being here. It's interesting to me, primarily being here in a learning mode, just to find out more about Raymond Harvey and all of the wonderful contributions he made, which were something, quite frankly, that until this event was organized, I was completely unaware of. So I think it adds something to the story of the Chickasaw Nation, certainly adds something to the story of Sulphur as a community, and it adds something to the stories that we're able to tell on behalf of the community and the interpretive programs that we do at Chickasaw National Recreation Area. So I'm really pleased to be a part of this event. Thank you again for having me. I want to say thank you to all of our veterans who do so much every day to protect our freedoms, and have a great afternoon and a wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much, sir, and we appreciate all the services you give us down the park. Good deal. I have one other. The Honorable Tom Cole couldn't be here. He sent his regards. In fact, he's waiting on his airplane. I think I'll let this lady explain that, but he was planning on coming. And I just knew he'd be here, but I think he's waiting to get a vote in up at Washington, D.C. or something. But the Honorable Tom Cole has always made his presence known around our county and what have you, our state, and we appreciate it. But I'd like to introduce a Miss Amber Pollard, and that is Congressman Tom Cole's office. And where are you? Here we go.
It's an honor to be here with you today. I know the Congressman would love to be here himself. Congressman Cole wanted to express his gratitude for himself and the gratitude of a thankful nation. There's no way to repay the debt that we owe Colonel Harvey, but we can certainly take the time to hold him up in the light like you are today and throughout the generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I'd like to introduce at this time the members of the Raymond Harvey family that's here. And one of them wants to talk, maybe both of them do, but you're sure welcome. First, Mrs. Cynthia Pereira, and next is Mrs. Jonice Firestone.
My sister won't talk, it's just me. Being the elder, and I apologize, I have a very high voice, but I'm the eldest in the family. There's myself. I have a brother who's next in line, Michael, who was not able to be here today. I have a sister, Margie, and I think some of you, my relatives know her as Margie Beth, who was not able to be here today, and my sister, Jonice, who's the youngest. We just wanted, as a family, and my stepmom as well, this is a very emotional time for us, because this honor, I think, would mean more to my dad than anything he's ever received. Sulphur has many memories for us. My dad, as well as my mother's family, has roots here. I remember coming here 50 years ago as a little girl. I was 12, 13 at the time. It doesn't look the same, but I have very good memories of Sulphur. And we wanted to thank you all for this. This is a very, very wonderful honor for my dad. My stepmom, Pam, was not able to come either, and she really wanted to. She was unable to, as she's caring for her mother, who is 95, and it's too hard for her to leave. My sister and I were commenting on the weather today. This is the same weather we had the day that we laid my dad to rest at Arlington Cemetery. So it's kind of a special day. We love the rain. I know you all need the rain and appreciate it. So I think it's a good omen for us. This, as I said, we cannot express to you how much this means to us. It's done more than you realize, because it's connected us with family that we didn't know we had. we've been able to talk and communicate with members that we didn't know were still around or how to get a hold of them. So this honor has done more than you will ever know. And we thank you as the Harvey family very much for this. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. You'll see more of them in just a moment. This time I'd like to introduce the Honorable Stuart Noone and Nancy Pereira Noone. I didn't get the name right, I know, Nam. Okay. New York City criminal judge at one time, so he's got to be very, very honorable. These folks are the one that have the plaque, and that's very admirable, but I think I found out where Mr. Earsom got all of his leads from now. It was from your wife, not you. Here you are, sir. Please welcome.
Folks, we want to thank you for all coming. This is a very, very special day for us. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the background because you probably wonder how this all came about. Well, I'm a graduate of City College of New York in 1955, 2 years before Colin Powell. And when I left City College, I had been in the ROTC. And I went to Fort Benning and then to Ranger School. And when I completed training at Ranger School, I was shipped over in 1956 to Korea, to the 17th Infantry Regiment. I was a platoon leader and then the assistant S1 in the regiment. I learned the history of the 17th Infantry. I knew they had fought the Iron Triangle. I knew they had been at Pork Chop Hill. But you know, when you're in a unit, you don't learn about people's names. Well, after my 17 years as a judge, and that's a story unto itself, and anybody interested in it can look at our website. But after my career as a judge, I went into documentaries and working with a British television company, and then finally on our own. And I said to Nancy one day, because I was now a member of the 17th Infantry Association, and I knew more about the history of the 17th Infantry. I knew that they had 6 Medal of Honor winners in the Korean War. I knew that Raymond Harvey was one of them, that is Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Harvey. And I said to Nancy, Nancy, wouldn't it be great if this glorious unit would have a documentary about it? Because I knew that they had been the only American unit to reach the Yalu River, and that they had fought from the Incheon invasion in 1950 right up until Pork Chop Hill when so many of them were killed. And Nancy immediately, and anytime I say to Nancy I'd like to do something, her word is say, yeah, go for it. So for 2 years, we traveled around the United States speaking to veterans of the 17th Infantry who had served in Korean War, 5 of whom have since passed. This was only just a few years ago. When I started on the documentary, I met a gentleman in Florida. He was a retired colonel. His name was Richard Grunther. And this was early on in the making of the documentary. And Colonel Grunther said to me, by the way, his father was the Supreme Allied Commander in Europe after Dwight Eisenhower. And he said to me, do you know about Raymond Harvey? I said, yeah, I know he won the Medal of Honor. He said, but you don't really know about Raymond Harvey, do you? He said, I'm going to tell you a story. And I said, Colonel, I'd love for you to tell me a story. He said, well, I was the company commander of Charlie Company in 1950 when the 17th Infantry was in the invasion of Incheon. And he said, we were moving up to the Yalu River. And I got a call from the battalion commander, and he said that there's a new officer coming into the unit. And he said that he would like to join Charlie Company. Now, Colonel Grunther at that time was a first lieutenant, company commander of Charlie Company. And Raymond Harvey at that time was a captain. And Colonel Grunther theorized that Raymond Harvey wanted to be in Charlie Company because he knew that Grunther was the senior company commander and that pretty soon he would be leaving or rotating and Harvey would then take over as company commander. And so Captain Harvey at that time, who had been a distinguished Service Cross winner in World War II, followed along one of the platoons as the unit moved up to the Yalu River. The platoon leader of the platoon that he was following was shot. And Colonel Harvey, at that time, Captain Harvey, got on the radio and called the first Lieutenant Grunther, and he said, the platoon leader has been shot. Can I take over the platoon? And Grunther says to me, I'm a first lieutenant, he's a captain, I'm the company commander, and he's going to take over a platoon. But he said he was the most heroic soldier I had ever met. He said the man had courage, and he said, do you know he won the Medal of Honor? I said, of course I do. And then shortly thereafter, Colonel Grunther, or Lieutenant Grunther, was wounded and evacuated, and Captain Harvey then took over Charlie Company. And of course, it's history after that on the march to the Yalu River, or the march back from the Yalu River and back into North Korea. Of course, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. Now, I happen to be the secretary of the 17th Infantry Association, and we have a newsletter that comes out periodically, and the historian of the 17th Infantry wrote this article about Raymond Harvey. And Nancy, who I hardly ever read the periodical because I'm busy doing my documentaries, but Nancy reads it from cover to cover. And she reads the story, and she says to me, Stuart, did you know that Raymond Harvey lived in Sulphur, Oklahoma? Now, Nancy had lived here in her junior high school years. Her dad was in the Air Force in Ardmore. I said, no, I didn't know he lived in Sulphur. And she said, Stuart, I'll bet you nobody in Sulphur ever heard of Raymond Harvey, because I didn't know of him. And so from there, Nancy contacted Mr. Earsom, and I'm going to let Nancy take over the story at this point.
Actually, I didn't first contact Mr. Earsom. I called a fellow classmate of mine, George Pivoteau, and he keeps me updated on everything that's happening in Sulphur. He lives in Dallas area, but he still has kept me through the years connected with Sulphur. So I called him, and he referred me to Mr. Earsom, and I said, well, he was my choir director when I was in junior high. And I said, I already know him, so I felt real comfortable about contacting him, and I did contact him, and he knew nothing of Raymond Harvey, and he did research, and they didn't have the records for a school and so forth because it was too far back. And so he continued to research, and somehow we connected up with Richard Green, and he's the historian for the Chickasaw Nation, and he wrote this beautiful article in July of last summer. And I need to go back to the point that I started this last March, was when I just read about Raymond Harvey and that he was from Sulphur. So it's been a whole year that I've been in process, but through 3 historians and many people even here today, we're out there helping, and the biggest connection actually happened when I went into the hospital for surgery on my knees, and we made connections through John Spradling, and he told us about these young ladies, Harvey's daughters and the other daughter and son. So we had their phone numbers. So while we were in the hospital, we called Cynthia, and we were just so happy because we already knew we were going to do the ceremony, and we already were making the plaque and so forth, but icing on the cake, the family to be here. And then the family tells us that, as she spoke, Cynthia told you that she's made more connections, and that's the way it's been for me too. I've made connections with all my junior high friends and more, and it's just been a marvelous experience, and all because of Raymond Harvey, and so I'm just thrilled. There was a statement made by our president, President Obama, and he just met with a Medal of Honor recipients in Arlington, Virginia. And I want to quote, Medal of Honor recipients are the foremost example of greatness in service and sacrifice. Their bravery and humble strength continues to reassure our nation of the strength of its character and deals even in these difficult times. I just thought that was a brilliant statement. And I want to say that Raymond Harvey will now be an ever-present part of Sulphur's history, and I just say hallelujah.
I'd just like to add one thing to this. I told you about my documentary. It's a 3.5-hour documentary, started out to be 1 hour, and we couldn't cut anything out of it after we talked to these veterans. I'm going to present today 2 copies of our documentary to the Veterans Center here in Sulphur, so the gentleman can get to see the history of the 17th Infantry, and I'm going to leave a copy here for the American Legion Post, who've been so gracious in allowing us to use the hall.
At this time, we'll have the unveiling of the plaque, and why don't you come up and help them? Here we go. This plaque will be placed in the museum, which is where we will have refreshments here after the celebration. It'll be a permanent place in the museum for it. Am I right? Do it. There we go. Let's give them a hand. Thank you very much. I don't guess I can you tell me what it says? I hadn't seen it. It says everything. Huh?
Let me read it. I think people would like to know what it says. Let me read it.
To honor Lieutenant Colonel Raymond T. Harvey, Chickasaw, American hero, March 1, 1920, Ford City, Pennsylvania. To Frank and Fannie Thomas Harvey of Sulphur, Oklahoma, November 18, 1996, Scottsdale, Arizona. Educated in the elementary schools of Sulphur, Oklahoma. Distinguished Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, and a picture of it. And you're welcome to come up after we dismiss the colors and what have you to look at this. There's also Congressional Medal of Honor, Company Charlie, or C Company, U.S. Army, Infantry, 17th Infantry Regiment, vicinity of Tami Dome, Korea, 9 March 1951, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty in action. Distinguished Service Cross, U.S. Army, 79th Infantry Division, World War II. Commendation, Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Croix de Croix with Palm, France. You know, when he got through, we're talking about 3 Purple Hearts, 3 Silver Stars, 3 Bronze Stars, because we were just talking about World War II at one time. Thank you, sir. That's very kind of you folks. Thank you very much. Isn't it great? And you know, I think he is registered, the way I read it, as one of the most decorated soldiers in the history of our country. Homegrown, Sulphur, America, Chickasaw Nation. That's great. At this time, we're going to have taps, sort of a so long for the celebration. And the taps is out of the Sulphur High School band. And I have Mr. Hagan is the band director, and my 2 good friends, Seth Summers and Melody Dunn. They'll play your echo of taps. Please stand, please. we're going to make a little change here. Retrieve the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, after the colors have been retrieved and cased, you're invited up to the museum for light refreshments. And if you just go out the door, take a half left, half right, and across the street, and that's the museum up in the old City Hall area there. Retrieve the colors, sir. Farewell to a good soldier. Here goes the Korean vets, and we'll follow them out afterwards. And you are, please make the refreshments. I want to give a special thanks to the American Legion Post 148 here. You've been absolutely superb, Paul. We really appreciate you. Also for the Ada Color Guard, the Chickasaw Nation Color Guard, and above all, our guests, and above all, people. Thanks a lot for coming. We appreciate you. Bye-bye.